tradition. So here is my example. And my holiday tradition, so you can see I chose to show a photo. My holiday tradition is that we always love to decorate the tree together. And when we decorate the tree, we take some of the ornaments and make sure we put them together, like the two bunnies that you can see next to the house. So for number 2, my image shows how we put the house in front of the bunnies so it looks like this is where they live. And something else I want you to know is this is kind of a silly tradition, but it's something we've done every year for as long as I can remember, especially with these 3 ornaments in particular. And my mom continues to do it every year, even though my sister and I no longer live at home. But she'll always send us a text with a photo that says bunnies in the house, so we know that she's done that, and it helps keep us connected during this time of year. And it kind of signals that our holiday season has started. So these ornaments mean a lot to me.
The bunny's in the house.
Yep.
Uh, Excellent, thank you. So this is Armani's example, and as I said at the beginning, Mrs. Lareniga and I got to sit with Armani, and we asked her if she would be willing to share, and she was, and but she wanted me to read here on the webinar. So she sent us 3 pictures, and she said that her holiday is Eid al-Adha. And one of the traditions during this holiday is visiting relatives and attending dinners with family and friends. And her image shows her dad and her brother and Armani coming from prayers at the mosque. And then she also drew 2 pictures of a young woman wearing the traditional hijab. And so you can see that she used 2 different ways of showing her image and her holiday. And this is also a holiday that happens at different times of the year. And so it was, I believe, next year it'll be in July. So it's a holiday that's important to you. And Mrs. Lareniga, I'm sure there will be lots of questions about different holidays. Like, can I really like my birthday. Is that a holiday that I should do?
No, I like your birthday too, but it's not a holiday that everyone celebrates, or maybe not everyone, but that a lot of people might celebrate. Only you celebrate that.
Right.
I've noticed that a lot of people are asking about whether or not it needs to be a December holiday. Absolutely not. It can be any holiday that you celebrate with your family.
Right. And there are 2 Eids each year. This is something else that Armani wanted to tell us. Eid al-Fitr and Eid al-Adha. And every Eid al-Fitr is traditional to fast. And then to break your fast after the Eid prayers. And Armani did talk a lot about the food and the traditions around food and how memorable that is for her. And then visiting many different family members and praying for those who are in the hospital and giving to the poor, and those are all parts of the tradition. And then hanging out with family and friends, and that was something that she really missed this year, was the opportunity to do that. So
her face was lit up the whole time she was sharing her story, which makes me think of your heart habit of mine, Miss Gould, because you could see just how great it was for her to share this with us. This is amazing, Armani. Thank you.
Yeah, wonderful work.
All right. And I think we have the rabbi next.
Hey, everyone. This is so cool to be here. Is it okay to put up the screen in a second? because I've got some things I wanted to hold up. Is that all right, Dr. Whitbeck?
Yeah. Oh, yeah. Let's. Yeah. Sure.
Cool. So, and I've got the light shining right in on me too, here in my home office. So, what a cool thing to get to be a part of. Thanks everyone for letting me join you. So I get to talk about Hanukkah. Hanukkah is actually over. It's 8 days, and they all passed. And you might say, well, is it in December? When is it, Rabbi Mike? And it moves around, which is like, how is that possible? Well, it's actually like some other holidays. A lot of holidays around the world. We have holidays that are based on the sun. There's the sun right there in front of me. And so when the earth is in a particular place each time, right? December 25th is always when Christmas is. But a lot of holidays around the world are based on the moon. So Eid is based on the moon in the Muslim calendar. Diwali, which is Jain and Hindu, which I think some of you celebrate, is based on a particular time when the moon is in a particular place in the sky. And so Hanukkah comes at a particular time. It's the 25th, but the 25th of a month called Kislev, which is a Jewish month. And you might know that we get presents on Hanukkah. There's a really awesome video. If there's any Hamilton fans out there, David Diggs, who was in the original Hamilton, just made a video called Puppy for Hanukkah, about a kiddo who wants a puppy for Hanukkah. It's not, the presents were a small part. This wasn't a huge holiday, and I'll tell you why in a minute or two. I know I don't have a ton of time. But so the holiday, I'm so glad this is about stories, because there's a story behind Hanukkah, like a lot of Jewish holidays. And the story is that you might know that Israel is a place where a lot of Jews live. It's right now, there's Jews in the government in Israel. It hasn't been the case for most of history. The government of the country of Israel about 2,200 years ago, and that's a long time, was run by the Greek Empire. And this is not, if you know Greek people, this isn't like, it wasn't like their responsibility. The Greek Empire was huge. It was like all over Europe. If you look at a map, you'll see it was in Asia. And the Greek rulers were nice, and sometimes the government is nice, and sometimes the government changes and it's not so nice. And there was a guy named Antiochus the Fourth, and he became a ruler, and he was a little out there. He wanted everybody to call him Antiochus Epiphanes, which means Antiochus is God. But the Jews quietly called him Antiochus Epimanes, which means Antiochus is crazy. And what made him crazy, they made a joke out of it, but it was really hard, because he said, you guys don't get to observe the Sabbath the way that you're used to, and you don't get to have the traditions the way that you're used to. And we're going to take over your temple, and we're going to put statues of our gods in it. Which is like, yowza, that's no good. We're not Jews and Muslims in particular have a problem with statues of God. We say that you can't make an image of God. So they're putting statues there, and they're taking pigs and throwing them around the Jewish temple. And you might know, again, in Judaism and Islam, pork is not okay. So it's a real, we're going to try and make you really mad and show you who's boss. If you ever have a bully on the playground who tries to boss everybody around. That's what Antiochus was like. And there's a small crew of folks named Maccabees who say, this is so not okay. And they fight back, and they win. Woohoo! And they go and they say, we're going to go get the temple back, and we're going to make it for God again. And it's a mess. I mean, imagine if somebody like knocked over all the chairs in your house and put a statue in the middle of where your dining room table was, and they put pork everywhere. Oh my God, maybe you like pork, but yeah, it was a mess. And they had to set everything up and fix it, and fix everything that was broken, and rededicate it. This might be a hard word to think of, but the word Hanukkah actually means dedication. And it's like, what are you dedicated to? What are you focused on? So it had been, the temple had been messed up and thrown into chaos and thrown into a big mess. And they said, we want to rededicate it, refocus it on God and on being good to each other and on following a holy path. So Hanukkah, anybody asks, dedication. Where do you focus things on? So focus it on God. There was a special, you might know this story, there was a special lamp. And if you look in a synagogue today, if you come to our synagogue on Prospect Street, you'll see that we've got some lamps in the sanctuary. Those lamps represent God's presence all the time. But they only found one little jar that was still sealed, right? And of course, this is the big miracle, is that even it was only enough for one day, it lasted for 8 days. Some of the miracles are that that it lasted for 8 days. Some of the miracles are that people who are in a minority got to be who they are. And that's, for me, that's a big miracle. One of the miracles to me also is that they even tried. You could say, we only have enough for one, why bother? So opening up that first little jar might have been the biggest miracle. Unfortunately, one of the reasons Hanukkah is not a huge holiday, or it hasn't been for Jews, is because the Maccabees turned out to be not so nice. They started a dynasty that was kind of yucky. They were mean. Sometimes people who are treated badly treat other people badly. So that's a little sad. But we keep reinventing Hanukkah. So here we've got a Hanukkah menorah that uses candles. Here we've got one that uses oil, right? Because it was oil. This one gets really messy, so people like the candle ones better. So this one's made out of ceramic. This one's made out of metal. This one is curved. And I'll show you now, if Dr. Whitbeck, if you could put up the screen, I'll show you why I gave you this picture. I told you about the minority getting to be who they are. So my holiday tradition is lighting a Hanukkah menorah. And this is an image of a woman who just died, Supreme Court Justice Ruth Bader Ginsburg. And it shows her as the lead candle. Every menorah has a lead candle that the taller candle lights the other candles. Which is a beautiful thing to give your light to somebody else. And somebody made this artwork, which is the 8 candles on the bottom spell out in letters, I dissent, which dissent is another big word, like dedication. Dissent means that I disagree. I have an opinion that's different, right? And so sometimes when you're a judge, and just like there are 9 candles here, there are 9 justices on the Supreme Court. Sometimes you don't always win the argument, right? Sometimes you're in the minority, but the power of being able to say, I dissent, and to have your opinion included, even if it's not the majority opinion, is so important. And I think it's one of the best messages of Hanukkah, which is that everybody's opinion is worth talking about, even if we don't agree with it. And so something that I want you to know about my tradition is that it tells us that even if you're not the biggest, or you're not the most popular, you don't have the biggest numbers, or you're not a majority, you're important, and everybody's candle is important, and everybody gets to shine bright. And so glad to be with you all. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Rabbi. And just as I said about Armani and Miss Gould, as they were telling their stories, they raise lots of questions. There are a couple questions here in the
I see.
And so the one that one is, do you light one candle on the first day of Hanukkah and the second light on the next, and so on and so on?
Yeah. So there was actually an argument, because whenever, just like in the Supreme Court, whenever there's Jews, there's an argument. So do you start with 8 candles and go down, or do you start with 1 candle and go up? And there was a rabbi named Shammai who said, there's another holiday in the fall that's super fun called Sukkot. And it's when Jews get to live in huts outside and have dinner and all their meals in huts in something called the sukkah. You can come by the synagogue and see it, usually in the fall. and you get to decorate it. It's like getting to live inside of a Christmas tree. You get to put all sorts of fun decorations up. And there were 8 days of Sukkot. And back in the temple days, there were 8 bulls that were sacrificed on the first day of Sukkot, and they would go 8, 7, 6, 5, 4, 3. So Rabbi Shammai says it should be like Sukkot. But Rabbi Hillel says, but then you're decreasing in light and matters. When we're talking about light and holiness, we want to increase. And so Hillel wins that argument. And so we increase light every day. I see there's also a question about worrying about my house burning down. God forbid. Yeah.
Yeah, I know. That's something that that my family thinks about as where we light them and the surface that we light it on.
Yeah. So there's actually a teaching in Judaism that something called pikuach nefesh, saving a life, is actually probably the most important Jewish job we have to do. And you always have to make sure that you're saving life. So if it's safer, you make sure you put the menorah where it's safest, and you never leave it, like any candle, you never leave it by itself, because that's really dangerous. So if you have candles lit, you always have to have somebody in the room.
Yeah, and they burn fairly quickly. I mean, ours do. Yeah.
But even if you have like a decorative candle or something that smells nice, you should never leave it by itself.
Right. All right. So I feel like this could become the Hanukkah webinar. Let's do just one more. There are 9 candles, and Hanukkah lasts for 8 days.
Yeah. So like I said, the tall candle, right? So here's one that's higher. Here's one that's higher. Here in the oil one, you'll see there's one on top. That one's higher, and that's called the shamash candle, or the shamus in Yiddish. And that is the candle that gives light to the other candles. And it's like such a cool thing. And this is another great teaching, that you say, oh, poor candle, it never gets its own day, but it gets to give light to everybody else. And when one candle lights another, that candle doesn't get any darker. Giving your light, sharing your light with other people, doesn't take anything away from you. It just makes the world brighter.
I love that. That's a great message. Thank you. And so this is what we're hoping for. As we post up our pictures and what's important to us, that it will generate questions for one another, and that we get into conversation. So when we get back into school, and we collect all of this, we're going to share them in a webinar so everybody can see them. And then in school, we'll have some questions and answers sessions about this. So it'll be a really nice way to get to know a little bit more about each other and things that we, as I said at the beginning, wouldn't normally be talking about. And do you have to do it? It's going to be an assignment that teachers will give out after the holidays are over, so when we get back in school. But you can be thinking about it if this is one of the holidays that you really want to be talking about and sharing with us. If you celebrate something during this winter solstice time, that you might want to collect pictures or some artifacts that you put together in a collage or something like that. A family could do one, right, Mrs. Lareniga? And then take a picture of it, and that can count. You could each send that into your teacher. We'll put that up as one family. So it can be a family piece. You can use Photoshop. You can do all. Miss Gould, I know you're busy answering questions.
They're the ones that I knew the answers to.
Okay.
I think it's important too to remember that we'll have time to answer questions in school too. So if you're like feeling like you want to get started, just hold on, and you can check in with us in January for some of the specifics.
Yeah, we're purposefully not giving you the links to send it in yet, because we don't want you to worry over the break about having to send it in.
Because there's no homework over the break.
Right. Okay. Ms. Gould, do you want to go on?
I think we're pretty much all set. I was just going to summarize.
Okay.
Would you like me to do that?
Yes.
Okay. So bringing back up this slide, And this, I believe, Dr. Whippick, we can share these slides with teachers and they can eventually be shared with the kids. Is that correct?
Sure. I can even put a link into it in my update for tonight.
Wonderful. So you will have this as a reminder. So when you do this in January, you'll have this to refer back to. But just a reminder, we're asking you to bring in a photo. It can also be an artwork. Just make sure you take a photo of that artwork to put with your short artist statement to answer those 3 questions of what your holiday tradition is, what your image shows, and then one more fun fact that you want us to know about that tradition. And then I don't need to read through these steps again, but they're there to remind you of how we're going to share it with the Douglas community once we gather all of these together. And we'll be sharing the links.
All right. So excellent. Thank you very much. Let's see. Any other questions that people have? Now is the time to type them in, and we can try to answer.
I just want to say how great I think this is going to be. I can't wait to learn more about everybody.
Will this be a Google slide assignment? Nope. You can just send us a photo, and in the email that you send it to us in, you can type the answers, and we will put them all into Google Slides and things like that. So we don't want you to worry about the formatting of a slide. We want you to focus on getting your message across. You will get another email with more information, or an assignment in Google Classroom, or something from your teacher. Can we send pictures over break? We are not going to post the link over break, so hold on to them. When is this due? We're going to have another webinar similar to this in January. I think either like the 18th or the 25th or something like that. So it's going to be later in January. Okay. So I think we're pretty clear. What is an artistic statement?
I can answer that one. An artist statement can be a huge variety of things, but basically it tells the viewer a little bit more about that artwork. So in this case, we're asking you to answer those 3 questions or those fill-in sentences just so we can learn more about your tradition, which is represented in whatever you send in, whether it's a photo or a photo of an artwork.
Thank you. Rabbi Mike, this is kind of an interesting question. Fabio is asking. First of all, Fabio, I didn't know that your relative was a judge. That's very cool. And then he says, how many people celebrate Hanukkah? He may be just asking like how many people in our school, but it just made me think like, do you have any figures of larger populations who celebrate Hanukkah?
He's muted.
Oh yeah, you gotta stop muting yourself.
We're not used to being unable to control that.
Yeah, I muted myself because I didn't want to make too much noise. Sorry about that. So yeah, I'm not sure if Fabio's asking about how many. Is he asking his classmates, or is he asking how many Jews are? I mean, there's in the whole wide world, there's about 14 million Jews, which might sound like a lot, but is really teeny tiny. If you think of there's 300 million people in the United States, it's a teeny tiny little group of people, which so that's why sometimes Jews get a little nervous about being around, because will we still be here? But we're still here. It's pretty amazing, right? These candles, we keep lighting candles.
Well, Fabio's impressed with 14 million, so
yeah.
Good job.
Is there? You bet. I'm wondering, is there, for people who maybe they don't celebrate holidays, like could you just pick something like the first day of spring or something? Can you? So.
Yeah. So what if you don't celebrate any unique holidays? So if you have a family tradition that is close to you, and you think you could do a heartfelt artistic statement about, I think that would be fine. The idea behind this is to get to know people in a different way. Do you have to be a Jew to celebrate Hanukkah? I don't know. I don't know that this is a formal part of Hanukkah, but one of the things that we always do is have friends and neighbors over in non-pandemic times to celebrate with us, and so. So I think that's at least in the Whitbeck family one of the parts of Hanukkah that we missed a lot this year. I don't know. What do you think, Rabbi?
It's always fun to celebrate with people. So our synagogue, when it's safe to be open, when there's not the virus around, anyone's always welcome. If you let us know you're coming in advance, we'll make sure to be really friendly to you. We'll try to be friendly to you anyway. There's you want to be careful on just taking somebody else's traditions and pretending that they're your own. So there's a really big word called appropriation, which we want to make sure that we are careful about. So like if I just buy a Muslim prayer rug and I just think it's like fun to just bow on it, like, and I'm not really respecting it as for what it is. Or if I, maybe just hang up a cross as a decoration and I'm not really thinking about what it means, that's probably not so nice. But to celebrate with somebody, that's always beautiful. And we try and do that a lot with, and we have members of our synagogue who aren't Jewish. So they're of course welcome because we have members of Jewish families who aren't Jews. So yeah, as long as you're sharing and you're not, you're treating somebody's symbols with respect, I think it's a beautiful thing.
Thank you. Does our tradition have to be something we only do? No. Something important to you. Is it possible to send a picture during break? No. But you can make your picture during break. You can start doing whatever you want to do over break.
It doesn't have to be a picture, right? Like you can make a sculpture, but then you'd have to take a picture of the sculpture. So be creative and unlock the different mediums if that's what you want. You could also take a picture, but you could do something different and then take a picture. Am I right, Miss Gould?
Mm-hmm. We have a few questions about digital art as well. We just tried some digital art apps. So Piskel app or even Google Draw. If you want to create it on the computer, that works too. Just take a screenshot of it or save it as a JPEG so that you can send it to us.
Just share with us what you do. Is that a wrap?
I think we've managed to hit just about everything. There are lots of people who want to talk about what they celebrate, which is fantastic, and there are tons of questions, which is what we want, about Hanukkah or Christmas or the Eids. So I think this is going to be fantastic. And we recorded this, and I'll share it with people so that if you have, maybe some of your questions will have been answered if you watch it again. All right. So don't worry about handing anything in until after break, and we'll send you the links then. Okay. All right.
Great.
Well, have a good vacation, Miss Gould and Mrs. Lareniga, and all of our 200 attendees.
Get outside.
Rabbi Mike, I don't know if you're getting any vacation this time or if it's already passed, but
I'm going to try and take it easy next week.
all right. Very good. All right. Well, be well, everybody. Be safe, and we'll see you when we return in the new year. Bye-bye. Thank you.
Oh, they're dropping.
All right, I'm going to turn us off. Thank you, everybody.
Great job.
Thank you.